right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning, I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show.
All right, Michael is going to join us a little later, but yes, it's good to know that the panel, investigating the issues concerning the AfDB president, the independent panel has exonerated him. So it is indeed, as it is now, it is all clear for him to go ahead and vie for that position. So quite a number of things that happened thick and fast. And so you do remember that at the time that broke, there was a lot of concerns as to what was going on. But now it turns out that they're going to go ahead. So that's a good one.
Well, it really is a good one when you look at so many things that many people ascribe to him that he has done. If you watch the news at 10 last night, you'll see that there was a little bit of a special about him. Some of the things that he had done, Power Up Africa, Light Up Africa, Feed Africa, 5 of those programs that really worked, and a number of people are wondering what the issue was in the first place. I think at this time it will be really wonderful to continue to support that which we find to be very, very important for us. Here's something we want to take a look at.
Our goal is basically make sure that the technologies to feed Africa, they are there. We don't have to look for them, they are there. But we want to get them from where they are to the hands of our farmers.
If we attracted only 1% of the global assets under management, I am fully convinced that we can close this infrastructure gap by being very, very innovative. And one thing I must say, this is the first time that all the multilateral development banks globally are getting together on one platform.
Over 645 million people lack access to electricity. We are embarking on a very bold effort to light up and power Africa within 10 years.
Welcome back. Let's run you through some of the dailies. Nigerian Tribune. Galaxy backbone reps uncover clauses ceding Nigeria's sovereignty to China. Wow. Probe implementation of $849 million rail project. China may not sign $5.3 billion Ibadan-Kaduna rail loan if probe continues, Amechi warns. What is this? Some sort of blackmail? So was it intentional that this was put in there? Were they trying to hide it from Nigerians? So now that reps have uncovered it, what next? Why was it inserted in the first place? These are some of the questions that will hit your mind when you just see this on the face of it. You just want to find out what in the world is going on.
Well, it's very, very interesting what this headline says. One may need to probe a little deeper to really understand what is happening, because, you remember that comment that you said, what one was included in one of those clauses. One of those days that we were looking at the papers, I think it was last year, that they said that when one member of the National Assembly claimed that there were certain clauses in the contract that was in Mandarin. You remember? So,
well, this is going to be this is a serious issue, really. And so what becomes of this is going to be of huge interest to Nigerians. And so if we've uncovered this, who were those behind it in the first place? Were the National Assembly not supposed to be in the know of this? Okay, now that they've uncovered it, I think it's something that should be of national importance, because if it's got to do with our sovereignty concerning this galaxy backbone, this is huge. This is huge. But I know, there's no point downplaying all of this. So it is a big one on the front page here today. On ending debate over hydroxychloroquine as medical doctors debunk US-based doctors' claim. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube pulled down video. No specific cure yet. NDDC. The thing about all of this is doing some damage to the perception that people have got about all of these things. It's taking some hit in terms of people wonder, now what? What next? I haven't seen this, why not? So do I just go ahead and try it and damn the consequences? But, In spite of all, whatever information you may have, you need to make informed medical decisions. And so that's the thing. Well, if they say don't be hasty in taking those decisions, but, well, it is what it is. But that's what you find right here at the bottom strip of the paper here. But unfortunately, yesterday, this picture you see here, scenes of the explosion that occurred at Ajao Estate, Lagos, on Tuesday. So the story actually is that explosion in Lagos, 2 killed, vehicles, shops destroyed. And that's the image associated with that story on the front page of Nigerian Tribune this morning. But interestingly, look at this above these lead stories as well. Court issues warrant of arrest against ex-NAS clerk Omolori. So it looks as if there's more to his, is it retirement, to leaving the position as it were from this one? You might as well just want to go dig in and find out what is going on there. Ex-pension boss Maina released from Kuje prison. No, you want to ask why? What is going on? Is it over yet? But just pick it up. Let's take a look at the back page. Yes, Nigerian Tribune. Now, relegated Bournemouth consider legal action. Saka nominated among Arsenal's best. So, lots of other stories on the back page of Tribune this morning.
The Guardian newspaper is next, and it leads with Nigerian airports record 44 billion naira loss in 3 years. That definitely is not something we want to hear on a Wednesday morning or any morning at that. If anything, we want to find out what is responsible for that. FG under political pressure to open unviable airports. Wow. Stakeholders, workers divided over concession, option, and process. That story continues on page 6. You'll find that little chart right above that COVID-19 chart there. Airports operational loss in 3 years, and the number of airports are listed there. Right there, you'll see them. And then, of course, there's a picture there of the Minister of Works and Housing during some inspection tour. And outrage over stamp duty charges in real estate sector. House prices, vacancy rates to rise, policy to face stiff opposition, lack of data on properties to mar collection, and to increase tenancy disputes and create black markets. If anyone is saying there really isn't much to it, well, this is an indicator. You may want to find out more details. The story continues on page 6.
Well, there are people saying there isn't much to it, and they'll still keep saying it.
Well, I guess that's a good pointer for them to say, you know what, let me go read what the papers are saying, the Guardian newspaper this morning, despite all of the conversations going on. Perhaps more information to come later. That's the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Okay, take a look at Vanguard newspaper next. Opera as FG battles PDP over ongoing NDDC probe. NDDC's looters accusing those cleaning mess. Lai Mohammed tells PDP. Adds PDP's call for Buhari's resignation infantile. APC misleading Nigerians, says PDP. Insists Buhari's anti-corruption war not failing despite EFCC, NSITF, NDDC probes. NDDC probe not party issue Pandef. Corruption today worse than COVID-19, Afeni Ferry. So this is just what you find on the front page here. And then you'll always get different people with different impressions about some of these things, unfortunately. But I'm not sure it's something they just had to tie or toy with this pandemic. Well, there is some reminder. Lagos records 212 new infections as confirmed cases rise to 41,804. That's what's on the front page in spite of all the back and forth going on there today. Southern Kaduna El-Rufai can differ over course of killings. Buhari rejoices as panel led by ex-Irish president declares additional of wrongdoing. So, yeah, just go ahead and take a look at that one as well this morning. CBN reassigns 2 pre-shipment inspection agents for non-oil exports. So, there you go. Take a look at the back page. Vanguard Sports, Vesterhoff sues Bonferre over match fixing allegations. Oh dear, 2 friends just going at themselves on this one now. Osimhen to get 50 million euros plus bonuses at Napoli. I thought that was his transfer fee. Okay, well, there you go. Well, that's something for you to go ahead and see. Nigerians task FG on sports broadcast rights reforms. It will be interesting to see how or what they decide on that particular one.
And how that will play out, given all of the clampdown.
Okay. NFF says it doesn't recognize Anambra's FA election, so you still got them going at that one again. You thought by now some of these federation squabbles might have smoothened out over time, but one guesses not. That's Vanguard this morning.
Take a look at the leadership newspaper this morning, and it leads with something, politics, of course. Turn-by-turn presidency not working. It's according to Maman Daura. Find out what all of that means on the inside pages, page 6 in particular.
So what could the suggestion be?
Well, I'm wondering.
This turn by, okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. Wants more competent Nigerian to succeed PMB. Says his role in the Buhari presidency merely advisory. Well, that's what you have there on the front page of the leadership newspaper.
So does that mean we're going to have some political law reforms, electoral reforms, and see what happens? How do we base that on the electoral process or laws? Who knows? Just wondering. Maybe when they read that story.
But given that we've been talking about that for a while, I mean, since the elections were concluded and all.
No, electoral reforms are different from the kind of person who fits that office.
Yeah, I know,
So,
but I mean, the fact that we were talking about it so, excitedly before, during, and after the elections, and now, is it because
no,
of
we're talking about
COVID-19?
the way the elections go.
I know,
electioneering. But he's talking about the people.
Yeah,
who
I'm
will
looking.
occupy.
I'm looking away from what he said now.
Oh.
That, look, we talked about electoral reforms, and it's
New ideas come every day. So that's what the law is. So if you find out there are lacunas, go ahead and see how you could amend and keep moving. Remember, which law says any law that can't bend or break. So I don't know. Some say that.
Really. Anyway, anti-corruption war, no respecter of personality, party affiliation. That's according to the federal government. That story is right beside the picture you see there. Recovers 800 billion naira loot, convicts 1,400. Says no secret cows in NDDC, NSITF, EFCC. And there's this one. I facilitated $62 billion recovery from oil companies. That's according to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. Right under the nameplate, coast clear for additional as panel absolves AfDB boss. PMB Nigerians hail outcome of independent probe. That's right there on the front page. And right under the pictures you see there, COVID-19, inbound passengers to now undergo tests. You want to find out at whose cost? The details are right there on the inside pages of the leadership newspaper today.
Right. Well, let's see now. Well, it did look like I wasn't going to come on today. Man proposes sometimes, but technology has other ideas. But looking at this one on the front page of Nigerian News Direct, you see there, NIPITEX 2020. I don't know what that acronym is, but it's right there on the front page. Increase investment in pipeline projects to boost gas utilization, stakeholders tell federal government. So they're definitely some group under, gas and maybe power and maybe, gas and power issues. So you want to check out that particular, what that story is about. Just yesterday, we saw that on the front page of The Guardian saying that stakeholders were now left to their own devices, or manufacturers were employing self-help as a result of the price of gas. So maybe they're offering a way forward with this particular one. Looking just on top of the nameplate, you also see there NDDC contract scandal. Akpabio must publish full list of indicted lawmakers. That's according to the reps. So are they saying the list is incomplete? Well, we don't know. You might want to read details on page 3. Federal government to set guidelines for resumption of international flights. Yeah, that's also on the front page. And Ilde Kabir, federal government declares July 30 and 31, 2020 public holidays. Yes, the public holiday is approaching. Page 2 will give you details. And at the bottom, some stories that have been on the minds of Nigerians. Stamp duty, why landlords can't increase rents, as according to FIRS. So if you're worried like me as to whether or not your rent was going to go up for all the ancillary charges, what should we say now? This story might just be for you. Why landlords can't increase rent. Sanwo-Olu swears in Audit Service Commission chairman, commissioners, that's also on the front page, and Lagos East Senate. My focus is on Polaris Bank stakeholders, customers for now. That's according to Abiru. So I know there's going to be a by-election there because the Lagos State lost a senator during this COVID-19 pandemic, and there has to be an election to bring up another senator for that particular region. But looks like Abiru is saying maybe he's not interested for now. Let's leave it there for Nigerian News Direct.
Okay, well, I guess we don't have daily times then. So there you go. That is a look at some of the dailies here today. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, yes, still keeping tabs on that as the schools prepare to heed that call. We'll get some further explanation this morning. We're joined by Otumba Yomi Otubela, who is the national president of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools. Thank you for coming on this morning. And then we also have joining us from Abuja, Professor Innocent Oja, who is the president of Nigeria Medical Association, the chairman. Good morning, Prof, and thank you for joining us today as well. Well, the NMA did express some concern about that decision so that those centers can go ahead and coordinate WIAC. Could you tell us, what are your concerns?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. Obviously, the government has taken a decision to reopen the schools after the shutdown following the COVID pandemic that ravaged the whole world. It is rather sad that our children have been out of school for close to 3-4 months, but probably for good reasons. We believe that they cannot stay at home forever, but we also know that we need to be prepared for them to go to school, to go back to school. What we are concerned about is the level of preparedness. We believe that we have not done as much to warrant their going back to school. These are children whose immunities are not as strong as even adults. We also know that they will congregate. We also know that they will come out, apart from social distancing, maybe by the desks they provide, it will come to a point where they will have to meet together either at sports in the fields, for sports in the field. And our fear is that we have not seen any sufficient level of preparation by the various schools to warrant their reopening. First of all, we have been told that everybody, the commissioners, the governors have agreed. What we have not been told is that what are the levels of preparations for the children to go back to school. Yes, they will agree, but then the children must be made to be safe. That is our concern as doctors. And we believe that prevention is better than cure. Nobody knows the cause of COVID-19. We don't know how long. But because we don't know how long it will be with us, we then will carry out preventive measures. And if we are able to prevent, the schools are ready, they have all that it takes to ensure that the children are safe. We will have no option but to say, okay, they should go back to school. But the way it is that with the level of non-compliance to the NDDC protocol, we believe that it is not right, it's not appropriate for them to be brought together in school and then be writing examination. And the writing examination, we said they should go resume on the 3rd of August and write exam on the 17th. First of all, what is their level of preparedness to pass exam? Those who are doing science will do practicals. Is it between 3rd of August and 17th that they will then mount practical sessions for them to to do practicals in physics, chemistry, biology, or what? If they do so, what result do we expect? Even if they think they can do that, and I do not think they will be able to mount this price. So there is neither here or there. Yes, it is not maybe okay to keep them at home for long, but in not keeping them at home for too long, we should also be prepared that we will get everything ready for them. Every child that goes should have temperature recorded. Every child should have hand sanitizers and hand washing practices. And now, if they are using face masks, we need to test them how they will talk while they use face masks. Not many people are used to face masks. You may be surprised that some people may be choked using face masks.
Let's get some understanding.
Who are not used to using face masks.
All right, Prof. Just a minute, Prof. Let's get some understanding from at least he was part of the stakeholders who I'm sure the minister met with. Well, you heard some of the concerns. Well, people always want to know what measures are in place if our children have got to go back to school. Tell us about it.
Yes, I want to appreciate you for inviting us to this program, and I want to also quickly address the concern of Prof. I foreseen a gap in communication here between the Ministry of Education and the medical practitioners. As I speak with you currently, we are having a seminar that is coming up virtually to all schools, and this will be conducted by an official from NDDC.
Which schools are these?
This is private schools. Private schools generally. And we also want to say here that there is this 52-page document that is released by Federal Ministry of Education, and this has been circulated for about a month or thereabout now. You will also recall that school has supposed to resume about 3 weeks ago before the minister put it on hold based on some logistic issue between the ministry and West African Examination Council. So this is to tell you that before now, school had been prepared for resumption. The 52-page document is so voluminous and detailed as to what individual schools supposed to put in place.
But that 3 weeks ago, when the minister put it on hold, he said it was not safe, that he wouldn't want students to go back there and get exposed. So it appeared as though there was some conflicting signals at the time.
Yes, the conflicting signal is the fact that the minister had been away for a while. You will understand that the Minister of State had been holding brief for him in all stakeholders meeting, including medical practitioner, the NDDC. There was a meeting that was held prior to the one we held this Monday, where stakeholders actually agreed for children to go back to school. At that meeting, NDDC representatives were present, and they give statistics of what is happening in the school. And they were also part of those who put the document together as to what we can do to observe social distancing in school. With SS3 going back to school, and with some states approving GS3 and primary 6, it is enough opportunity for us to observe physical distancing with less than 50% of the school population going back to school. And you could recall in some of the documents, not only for school, that had been circulated by NDDC on what is advised to be done by different sectors. It is advised that about 40% of the population of a workforce in a building should be allowed to return to school. And with just JS3 and SS3 in secondary school, primary 6 in primary school, we have less than 40% population returning back to school. Beside that, we have adopted a reduced number of hours to be spent in school within this reopening. We're looking about 3 hours max of 4 hours as against about 8 hours to 6 hours that students spend in school now. Most examination that will be coming on will not last more than 3 hours, and children will come in for their exam. Even for the revisional classes before the examination will start, this timing is also going to be respected. And we have also held various meetings with parents, even the community leaders, to deny children accessing purchase of things on the road. When they leave their home and get to school, say around 9 o'clock in the morning, we expect them to leave back home around 12. So the time of break is also shrink to the extent that children can have their breakfast pure before they leave home and they go back home to have their lunch. So there is limited interaction between the children, except within the classroom where teachers are with them too.
How about the compound where the students themselves and the children are going to congregate? That's going to be very difficult, just as the doctor said. That's going to be difficult to manage. They haven't seen themselves for like 3-4 months. And how are they going to maintain physical distancing that way? Because it's easy to control them in the school, but then when in the classrooms, but when it comes to, you know, playing around and all of that, what's the plan?
I've just addressed that now. Probably you didn't get that point. Children are not returning to school now for any co-curricular activities.
No.
They are going back to school.
Just one moment. They come to school. They haven't seen themselves in a while.
Okay.
They don't just get from home into the classroom. They will walk into the school. They will meet themselves. There is no way they will still not greet themselves.
Of course, they will greet.
Exactly.
Physical distances never denying people from greeting themselves. What we are saying is physical contact should not occur. And that is why we have teachers here. We have teachers that are taking care of 6 classes from JS1 to SS3 to man 2 classes now. So you could understand that the workload on teachers is reduced. Beside that, as I speak with you, throughout the whole federation, different sensitization programs are going on with the teachers as to what to do and how to curb children getting close. Remember also, these children are of age. We are talking of children between the ages of 12 to 18. These are children that can easily be given instruction and they understand. There is no other place in the country or elsewhere that orderliness is well maintained rather than in school environment. And I tell you that apart from the fact school grounds are marked, there are inscriptions in conspicuous places all over the school environment to tell the children what to do and not what to do. In most cases, these children are already engaged through virtual teachings, and information and enlightenment are ongoing to tell the children what to do and not what to do. So the school is safe, the children are ready. We are not new to this issue. There's a little different from it. We have been used to Ebola crisis and we manage it.
Let's bounce this off, Prof. Prof, have you listened to some of these measures? Yes, we'll talk about more. But so far, what's your reaction to some of these measures that he's announced?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the issue is very interesting. Having policy issues does not translate to implementation. If you know that our greatest challenge in Nigeria is implementing policies, so the voluminous documents that we're talking about is there, yes, for guide, but how many? We're even talking about adults to maintain the protocol of the NDDC. How well have we been able to do that? Not to talk of children that violate any rule that comes their way. Now, what we are talking about is the safety of the children. Prevention is better than cure. If we are assured that things will be done and children would keep to these protocol policies, and even the teachers, we have no objection. But what we fear is that the implementation will be very faulty. Now, even what the representative of the proprietors is saying is segmented. He's talking about private schools. Now, the people in the public school, the children in public schools, are they not Nigerians? Are they not children of Nigerians? The appropriate thing to do in this is to bring people who are also involved in the public schools. Because the proprietor is talking about the private schools where things might be fairly okay. It may not be terribly better, but when you talk about public schools, how well are we ready? My point is that, one, we have policy, that is true. Now, how far can we implement the policy? That is called to question. Thirdly, to say that the children will not mingle and greet, it's very easy for children. Once you leave them loose, that is all. And you can't hold them to their seats. So what we are saying is that we should be clearly ready. We are not ready. Adults are not even complying with the basic principles of the protocol, not to talk about children.
All right, Prof.
So
let me ask you.
Should be assured.
Now, they were stakeholders. They attended the same meeting. They expect that the public schools will implement the same measures that the private ones are to implement. It's the same guidelines that they all do have. But before we come to that component, the policies and some of these measures that he's spoken about that they plan to implement. Now, assuming they were to implement that successfully, would you be confident to say, okay, if they can guarantee us above 90% implementation of this, students can go back to school? Will that work for you?
We have no objections at all that the children should go back to school. What we are saying is that they will not implement it. That is the truth of the matter. It's enough to say we want to implement. But the reality on ground is that let's test it. Let them write an MOU that in the process of this stampeding the government to reopen schools, if any child comes down with COVID, they should be responsible. Because we must talk about responsibility. You know what we are all talking about, even though we know that they have interest of the students at heart. Children should go to school, they should make progress. But the underlying factor, in my opinion, is the fact that for 3 months now, the proprietors have not got a kobo from school fees. Many of the teachers have not been paid. I know this because I do some background checks. They have not been paid. So, and the parents are not paying school fees. If they are not paying school fees, the proprietors don't have money to even look at, sufficient money to look at after their school. And then the teachers are not being paid. But that aside, now, if students are spending 6 hours or 8 hours in school, and the outcome of their WAEC is disastrous, now we are told that they will have to spend about 3 hours or 4 hours. What are they going to learn during this period?
Let's jump right away into that, Prof. Just hang on a minute before you stretch it a little further. We need to address those concerns as well, because it's still about ensuring that people are confident that children can get back to school. Now, in the event that, yes, you've rolled out some measures that you put in place, but we know how the nature of this varies. It's new, it keeps evolving. Now, if they happen to be in a room and, the cooling system is in there, they talk about this being in there for a while. So even if they observe some of those procedures that you've put in place, well, chances are they possibly, if someone is asymptomatic where they don't know or they don't show symptoms, one person may contract it. So can you guard against that?
Let me quickly address the aspect of the performance of the children in the previous examination concerning the hours put in.
You will. But I'm just starting from, if you don't mind.
I will address that question.
Okay.
I don't want to forget that aspect.
All right.
You see, the children, I have said it earlier on, I'm going to repeat that. The challenges we have here all over the country about the resumption or reopening of school is the fact that we have not communicated well. And I must accept that we also have a duty to inform the populace about what exactly is obtainable. Yes, the children had already written their mock examination by March of this year, before the lockdown. they were to start the examination by April. So all had been done and concluded for the children to go in for the exams. For preparation towards the exam, that is not the issue we have here. In spite of that, there have been continuous virtual classes. In government circle, with the student, yeah.
Well, when did this continue? Even right from March or recently?
The virtual classes?
Yeah.
As early as March ending. Second, public school started as early as April. Through television stations, through radio stations, and through sending of materials to children to revise with. I'm talking about children writing SS3 WAEC examination. They are well prepared. That is aside. Concerning...
pardon me. If that was going on, and they're well prepared, why do they need to come back to the schools? Why not just come in, write the exams, and go?
Instead of coming 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
No, you understand that writing examination has got to do with a lot of the mindset of the children.
But you've been communicating with them. You've been coordinating them.
They've not been in school for a while. They've not interacted physically for a while. So that 2 weeks window will be enough for them to settle, acclimatize back to the school system before they go to the exam.
If they had been doing, this revision, or they have kept abreast of all of these things virtually, some have also asked the question, what is wrong with taking the exams virtually?
You see, this is a certificate examination, and it is not only Nigeria that is involved, and taking the exam virtually will also entails a lot of technology involvement, which both the exam body and the children, even the school, are trying to get used to the new normal. So it will meet up this August exam.
Okay.
For the future, yes, pretty good.
Okay, so you have talked about, in the fact of getting back to school, you talked about the 52-page document. Maybe we should want to first of all
forget about
answer that question of the environment. The PTF COVID-19 has also said that there's a possibility of a little bit of airborne status for COVID-19. What if that happens in a classroom?
Yes. You could understand that we are not just resuming because we felt that the children should just go back to the school to write exam. There are history. There are evidences of countries who had resumed back to school and are doing pretty well without the spike in the positive cases. As I talk to you, Ghana as a country had started their WAEC examination with peculiar subjects to that state.
Yeah, Mr.
And they have camped, just a minute please, and they've camped these children for 3 weeks before this Monday that we had the meeting. This information was shared, and we also follow up with Ghana, our counterpart in Ghana. As we speak with the children are still camped in their various hostels, and they are getting prepared to join Nigeria and other Kenya and the rest by August 17. So if it is not going to work, we should have gotten a report after 21 days from Ghana. That's one. Two, what is the essence of the use of the preventive guideline that the medical practitioner had given to the society to use? The use of infrared thermometer to determine the level of wellness of individual before they get into the school. The use of face mask within the public area. All these are to curtail the spread of this virus. And beside that, there are major issues that are more challenging than even the COVID-19. Such as the psychological mindset of the children. There are a lot of rise in cases of social vices that are currently ongoing. The forgotten aspect of wellness is the mindset of individual. The children, as they were now, they are supposed to be worked with a specialist, a psychologist who will work on their mindset. Because when you hear about rape here, when you hear about drug addiction here, when you hear about other social vices, they don't just start today. It is as a result of the fact that what goes into the mind of these children is not followed, is not curtailed. And it is more dangerous than even the COVID-19 themselves.
Well, the thing about that is, don't forget, you started by saying communication. parents knowing what has been done. So countries, this thing is peculiar to countries. So whatever measure each country takes has to be tailored to what's obtainable to that particular country. But we need to go to break soon. But Prof, having heard this perspective in terms of what they put in place, all of those preventive measures, because they insist that, look, these measures, the practitioners themselves, the medical practitioners did reel out these measures, and then they are complying with these measures. So at the moment now, these measures, they say they're going to go ahead. But you know what, Prof? We'll come back and let you both just give us your concluding moments in just a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. So, Professor Uja, go ahead and tell us what your thought is as we wind down, whether or not these measures, as announced, were good to go.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I must say that we are very quick to import what happens in other places where we do not have, where our level of discipline may not agree or may not comply. So we shouldn't say Ghana did this. What we have, just like Chamberlain said, specific issues in the country should be looked at. The second thing is that the way we are, we have not been told whether there are monitors, those who are supervisors from the federal ministry, from the states or federal ministry of education to ensure compliance. You see, this is just, you know, how many schools we have that can be covered, even if we have supervisors, because we need to ensure that our children are protected. We are not saying the schools should not reopen. We are saying that if the schools are reopening, the children must be protected. That is why we are trained. That is why doctors are trained to preserve the lives of people. And we cannot do that in this case without talking about prevention. We are saying prevention. And we know that the immunity of the children is not as strong as those of the adults. We also know that we are not as disciplined. I'm sorry to say this, that we are not as disciplined as other people in other climes. So by and large, we will now wait and see what happens. If it comes to a point that the schools reopen, we have barometers, we have to indicators to monitor. One, how many people would have come down and what is the response and the national response. Then we'll look at the performance in schools because it is very important. I don't see how the practical revision can be held within 2 weeks and students will do well in physics, chemistry, biology, because that is a very important component, as you all know, as far as we are concerned. So by and large, we are going to monitor, we're going to look at the outcome of this examination vis-a-vis the COVID pandemic. Otherwise, it will be a lesson for us because I think this is one of the first few circumstances where there are extensive discussions on issues of health. And you can see how weak our health system is. That's why we keep on talking about improving the health system of Nigerians. If we are able to do that, the children wouldn't have been, if we are disciplined enough, we are able to comply. Okay. Many of these problems probably will not have come to the fore.
All right, Prof. Just hang on a minute. But, Otumba, much as, yes, you may want to pick one or two things to respond to this, but of equal concern is two things. People wonder, when you say you're trying to tell, get parents, let them go straight from home to school, ideally, that might not be a bad idea. But they're concerned about those who have got to make use of public transport. And then secondly, what's going to happen to those who are in boarding schools?
Quickly, aside looking at what happened in other clans close to us, in Oyo State here in Nigeria, school had resumed for weeks, even over a month. And we have not had a single report of any child down with COVID-19. And it is because the government of Oyo State could implement all those strategies that doctors, including medical practitioners, put in place. So if you have put in place for us guidelines to be used, it is not our duty for you to supervise it. It is your duty to go to the road, work with government to supervise it. Of what use is this document, for crying out loud, if it is not going to work? Why do you ask us to use it?
So how about the other two issues? Public transport, students who will use public transport. And then the
There are
boarding schools.
guidelines on the use of public transport. The population of, even the head of road transport workers, the other time I know about of Lagos, and I have seen others on the streets while I was coming down here. They are picking commuters to a about 50 or thereabout the capacity of the buses. So the same thing applicable to the children. It is the implementation. I'm concerned about Prof. worries, and I'm concerned too. We are all involved. I have a child that is going to write examination also, and I have a couple of children under my watch in my school. So we are all concerned about it. If the guideline will not work, then the doctor should withdraw it from the circulation. If it will work, they should implement it. That is our stand.
We know what has happened with the bus public transportation system. For instance, here in Lagos, we've seen that there are huge gaps in those areas. What about boarding schools now?
Boarding school is the safest now because the boarding school is built for a capacity of SS1 to GS1 to SS3. Now we are having only just SS3 resuming back to school in the first phase, and you could understand that there could be enough spacing of these children within the boarding house, and professionals are also trained to be with these children to guide and monitor them.
Perhaps, this might be a consideration. Well, since we referenced some other climes, Paddy on Twitter is referencing another climb. He says, graduating students in the UK were qualified using a combination of their mock results, schoolwork records, and university interviews. Seems to have worked out fine without endangering lives. Why is this not an option?
Yes, in the same UK you just quoted, you will agree with me that children had been allowed to return to school for 4 weeks now. And for the government to have concluded the process of using their mock examination for promotion or for qualification. The system of education there, of course, is going to be a bit different from ours here. The monitoring of their mock examination is different from ours here. So like Prof said, and I want to agree that we can't just copy and paste what has happened in UK here. We know how our home mock examination is written here. We know how reliable the mock result could be here. And for now, we in private school will not support adopting the mock results for certificate examination.
All right, then. We do thank you for coming on, and we hope all of this works out well, and parents can be indeed convinced, and we all stay, how did I say?
Safe.
Happy and safe after.
Safely. Safe reopening.
Safe and happy reopening. All right, Otuma Yemi Otubala is the National President of National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools. Thank you for coming on. Professor Innocent Ujah, the National President of Nigerian Medical Association. Thank you for your time as well this morning. All right, we're back in a moment. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Mr. Matthew Bojubola joins us now. He's the Director Tax Policy for FIRS. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, about this tenancy, lease agreements, I know you know, there are lots of reactions across the country about it already. Different interpretations concerning how will we respond to this. People are already waiting to see what the landlords will tell them or these agreements. So go ahead and talk to us about this policy. Clearly, what it specifies and how to proceed.
Thanks very much, and good morning, viewers. The stamp duties is not something new in Nigeria. It's what we've always had with us. As far back as 1923, the current law that we have were actually enacted way back in 1939, even though it has undergone a number of amendments. The most recent one be in the Finance Act of 2019. Now, with respect to the rates on tenancy, let me state clearly that the rates that we have published are the rates that have always been in the books. The last time that the rates were reviewed was actually way back in 2002, and this had been in the public domain since then. All the FRS had done recently is to bring this to the consciousness of the people based on several inquiries which the service had received from stakeholders who want to implement, who want to comply with the law. And specifically as to the tenancy, there had been a number of rates in the public space. I read in one of the newspapers yesterday that 60% stamp duties on rent. This is absolutely not true. What we have in the law, and which the FRS has publicized, are in three categories. One are rents that are between 1 year and 7 years, which goes for 0.78%, which is less than 1%. And then we have those tenancies between 7 years and 21 years, which is 3%. And tenancies that are beyond 21 years are 6%, not 60, 6%. And when you look at the individual house renters, you hardly get an individual renting a house for 21 years in Nigeria. I mean, the highest probably you will have is between 1 and 2 years. And I also know that some state governments have pegged tenancy tenure to not more than 1 year so that individuals are not subjected to excessive charges by landlords. So when you then look at that, so the highest an individual could pay in respect of tenancy for stamp duty, let's assume somebody pays the rent of 100,000, for example. The highest that individual will pay is 780 naira as stamp duties. So there are a lot of misunderstanding of the publications and of the FRS.
Well, maybe you want to give us a little more. Just one moment, Mr. Wanjo. Maybe you just want to educate us a little because in the circular that you released, 7.0, one of the recommendations there reads, tenancy or lease, which is ad valorem at a fee of 6% of the tenancy or lease value, that is 6 naira for every 100 naira. There is no year mentioned in that particular one that was released by your organization. So please explain why people will not term that, to mean that it is 6% of the rent. 6 naira for every 100 naira. That's something.
Yeah, thanks very much. 6 naira in every 100 naira, that is for tenancy that is above 21 years. As a result of a number of requests for clarification, that is why the service is doing what it's doing now, further clarifying to people. When you are making out information, there's a limit to which you want to use words. There's a limit to which you can do breakdowns. And for professionals in tax arena, they understand the rules. So I think here, I understand people taking the 6% has been absolute, and that is why the service has come back. We have gone severally to make corrections to enable people to understand that the 6% is for the upper bound, people that have tenancy beyond 21 years. And you find out that you hardly find an individual in that category in the first instance.
Even though they asked, after the stamp duty for the transactions and the banks, then you have this 0.78%. So, but just a minute, Doctor, let's come back to Dr. Chris David here. He's a futurist and tax expert as well. Well, this policy, the thing with tax, they always want to look through everything and be sure that, ask questions as to why am I paying this and that. But this stamp duty policy, the framework of government, benchmarking it with international best practices, are we falling short or we seem to be doing okay?
Well, good morning, viewers. Just like you've mentioned, anything tax will always generate reactions from the public. And for we tax practitioners, stamp duty is one of the taxes we refer to as miscellaneous taxes that is negligible. But in recent years, or currently, is the way it has been publicized, it now appears as if it's a major source of revenue to government, and especially failing to explicitly explain the years and the rate applicable to tenancy rate. However, I think we should understand what the purpose of stamp duty. Stamp duty, the idea originally emanated from the Netherlands, and it was first introduced in the UK in 1688. And for what purpose? When individuals wanted to give legal rights to documents, then there was the need to have government input, and that was why stamp duties was introduced. So stamp duties is to actually confer legal right, or the conferment of legal recognition on instruments. So for the purpose of stamp duty, we say an instrument is any written document. And in Nigeria, to incorporate digital transaction, the Finance Act 2019 now include electronic documents. Now, having said that, for policymakers, if you want to now implement stamp duties, it should be restricted to documents or instruments that requires legal rights. So the question
of which what this tenancy lease agreement is part of it.
So that's the question we need to ask now, and to benchmark it with other clients. The UK, for example, rents do not attract stamp duties. But if you want to buy a property or land, that is when you have to pay stamp duty. And they have to also grade it. This stamp duty, is it the house you are purchasing, is it for residential accommodation or for commercial purposes? And they went further to say, okay, even if it is for residential or commercial, it has to be a property starting from X amount that will attract stamp duty. Not that any rent or any purchase of property or land will attract stamp duty. So there is a threshold. That is in the UK.
Let's bring Mr. Bojubala in on this one as well, because, you know, in addition to that, people just thought, wait a minute, so if, you know, they're getting, because you never can tell, of course, there will be people who will have been renewing their rents up until that 21 years, and then they wonder, even the ones that are just going in the 0.78%, if it's for residential purposes, they say, look, I'm not transacting any business from this. Why do they have to pay that stamp duty? Because it's not for business purposes. Why don't they find it in another way, perhaps, as Dr. Chris David did say, in other climes, if it is for your residential purposes, no stamp duty. But if you're buying it, it means that perhaps that stamp duty, or in some cases, property tax can come in.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. Taking it up from the issue of residential versus commercial. First thing we must understand is that taxation comes from the law. The FRS does not make the law. The law is made by the National Assembly. And so what the service does is to implement exactly what is in the law. I'm sure my colleague with you will bear testimony that the issue of bifurcating tenancy to residential and commercial is not in the law. What we have in the law simply says you have a tenancy agreement, which is a dutiable instrument. If it is less than 7 years, the duty will be 0.78. If it is between 7 years and 21 years, it's going to be 3%. And if it's beyond 21 years, it's going to be 6%. That is the way the law had identified stamp duties on tenancy. Now, if we want to move to begin to talk about threshold, to begin to talk about separating residential for commercial, then we have to go back to the National Assembly so that we could then have the law so amended. But what the FRS have done is simply implementing the law as it is. And this law, like I said to you, had been there as far back as 1939, with slight amendments in 41, in 42. I think the last amendment before 2019 was a 1952 amendment. So the law had been there before I was born. So what we just do is implementing the law it is. But if we find that the law is no longer serving our purpose as of today, then we have elected honorables in the House and in the Senate, then we make case to change the law. I think that would be my response to that.
Okay, well, I know when you say it was there before you were born, but it's you that people will see, the collector, whoever is coming to collect it, is the person they will see, not knowing that it's been there way before you were born. But, Mr. Davids, I mean, then the question will be, look, yes, these things have been there. You were saying it's miscellaneous, but to a lot of people, this is not the case. Especially if comments coming through from FRS was that we need to see we don't need to rely on just oil as the major source of revenue. They have to diversify. So that is equally important for some of them. Should we at this point maybe encourage people to take up this with the National Assembly and say, listen, in our present economic reality, this may have a second look?
Yeah, you just heard it said that the current framework of the stamp duty was actually enacted 1st April 1939. So obviously, what we have now is not in tune with the present economic reality. And it appears, or based on what we were told last year, that every year we are going to be having finance acts.
Yeah.
So I think there is opportunity for us.
Yeah.
So opportunity for us now to actually overhaul or amend most of these sections.
Okay.
And
so we'll take a look at that. What should we do moving forward? And then even the environment, that property market itself. Some concerns, equal concerns in just a moment. Please stay with us. Well, let's take this back to Abuja now. Well, one of the provisions in the law, and of course the explanation, the circular that FRS just recently released, is what you call instruments and receipts liable to stamp duties, including electronic stuff like electronic media content, electronic documents, files, emails, text messages, WhatsApp messages. How is that going to work?
Yeah, thanks very much. We are looking at year 2020, where the manner in which we conduct businesses have changed dramatically from what it used to be in 1939. As at the time the stamp duties were introduced in Nigeria during the colonial era, nobody talks about text message. Nobody talks about a WhatsApp. Now, today, it is possible for you to start a business, transaction, generate receipts by electronic means, by use of social media, your WhatsApp, your whatever it is that will serve as an acknowledgement of payment. And I know that the courts in Nigeria also amended their rules not long ago to accept electronic documents in evidence in trials. So the tax law must also recognize the way people do business. So when the law talks about documents in the form of text messages, in the form of WhatsApp messages, in the form of emails, it's not saying that when you send a text to greet your brother or your friend or any other thing that you're going to pay stamp duty. No. But if you send an acknowledgement of payment by way of text, that becomes a dutiable instrument electronically. And also we have electronic way of stamping now. It wouldn't be a physical stamping, like you stick something on a paper. So we also have the technology in FRS to be able to do electronic stamping, whereby that your document, you can preserve it, just like my colleague there said, that instrument becomes tenable in a court of law because it bears the seal of government. So,
Question, Mr. Gwajibala, just one moment. The question then is, just one moment, Mr. Gwajibala. The question then is, how is it going to work? I send you a message, you send me money, and I acknowledge to you that you have sent me money. How is it being tracked? Is there some monitoring going on somewhere? WhatsApp, for instance, is supposed to be an end-to-end encryption. So how is it going to be monitored?
Into our phones?
Are you looking into our phones? Is there a tracker somewhere?
We are certainly not looking into your phones. We're certainly not looking into your phones. What happens is that there is a portal which you generating that acknowledgement is supposed to pass through for you to stamp electronically that's your message. The other alternative for you is you could actually approach the office of the FRS with your phone to say, look, I have this receipt. I want it stamped for me. And then electronically, it will be done for you. The service does not eavesdrop on your phone. We do not hack into your phones. We have no access to your messages. Like you have said, there's hand-to-hand encryption. Howbeit, there is a channel that we have created for anyone who wants to pay stamp duty on electronic receipt, which you will voluntarily pass through.
Okay, well, some concerns about this, because even looking through some of those documents as released by FRS, well, yes, they say they didn't make the laws, but some of them, different ones, including the power of attorney. If I'm going to give somebody power of attorney to superintend over some of my activities and transactions, I had to pay some tax for that purpose. But in some other times, no, it's once you're buying that property, de facto, that one is different from this one. In addition to that, government is talking about lifting people out of poverty. We have huge housing deficit. The market here seems unstructured. So questions about appropriateness of some of these policies. Are these concerns for you?
Yes, concerns for not just me, for everybody, especially people looking at how we could develop the Nigerian economy. And the challenge we've always had in Nigeria is policy incongruity. When one body is saying this is what we want to do, pronouncement by the president wants to lift 100 million people from poverty. But you discover some of the actions, again, from agencies and all that, are actually keeping the people in bondage. South Africa, in Africa today, is the highest, is the country with the highest tax revenue. But they have abolished stamp duty far back as 2009. So my advice for policy makers is, when we want to introduce tax, or we should look at our taxes generally, and let's focus on taxes that have broad base that we can actually implement and get the required revenue. As little as these stamp duties may be, they actually constitute burdens and add to the cost of doing business in Nigeria. Another example is we are talking about housing deficit in Nigeria. So you have people trying to come into that space to provide these houses. And now stamp duty is now being implemented, though it has always been there. But now FRS have created a portal that you can actually go in there and do it yourself. But all these actually cost or increase the cost of doing business. And in market efficiency, we said when the transaction cost is high, it creates what? Market inefficiency. So let's look at globally, how do we intend to raise enough taxes in Nigeria by considering the taxes that they have broad tax base. That is what we should be implementing or we should be focusing on.
Okay, as we wind down, Mr. Gbojubala, could you tell us, does FIRS do they make any inputs to some of these policies? For instance, if people feel some of these may not be enforceable, is this something that the FIRS may, if they find that to be the case, to also make suggestions, maybe when next the documents are being presented to the National Assembly?
Thanks very much. The FIRS is an agency of government, and there are channels of communication as enshrined in the various rules and also the laws. Definitely, the FIRS has the opportunity to reach the policymakers and to make suggestions. But even that suggestion will be within the larger policy thrust of the government. I am sure you were aware that Nigeria has a tax policy document, and that tax policy document states that consciously government will begin to reduce direct taxes and then increase indirect taxes. And if you look at the Finance Act 2019, you will see a lot of that being implemented. For example, now we have thresholds such that small businesses do not pay tax at all if their turnover is less than 25 million naira in a year. We have medium taxes, medium classes, where if the turnover is below 2 billion naira, the entity pays only 20% income tax. So only the large ones are actually paying 30% tax on their profits. So you will see there's a deliberate march towards reducing direct taxes, income taxes, which is actually what puts money in the pocket of the individuals, not the indirect taxes. The indirect taxes look at your spending. And so if you are able to keep your earnings, but when you spend, then you pay VAT, you pay stamp duty if you have dutiable instrument. And that is actually the shift all over Africa. That's what you see happening, because there's a need to make people to come out of poverty. And we saw that when you tax their income directly, the more you tax their income, the less they have with them. But the way to lift them out of poverty, just like you said, is to now say, all right, keep much of your money. But if you now have to spend money, then you can now begin to pay taxes. So this is one, you can see the congruency of policy that was alluded to previously by the former speaker.
All right, if there are people who tell us that when they move money from one of their accounts to another, that is interbank, they say they charge them, if it's above 10,000 naira, they say they still charge them stamp duty. So, but we need to check that and double check and be sure, because that is not supposed to be the case. But we do thank you, Mr. Matthew Gbojubala, Director of Tax Policy, FIRS, and Dr. Chris David, futurist and tax expert. Thank you both for coming on today. We're back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. Well, Senator Matthew Roide joins us now from our studios in Benin. Good morning, Senator. Thank you for joining us today. Well, the list that has been making the rounds about NDDC, your name was listed as one of the beneficiaries of some contracts from the NDDC, and there's been certain tongues wagging. How come your name made the list?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain, for having me here and for this privilege. Good morning, viewers. First, let me say that whatever the intention of the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, you know, my former colleague in the Senate, Senator Akpabio, you know, really is, you know, in positing wrong information in public domain. And of course, misinforming members of my constituency, you know, with the wrong notion that, you know, I have been a beneficiary of contract awards in the NDDC. This privilege that I have, you know, to explain some of the things, you know, with regard to this misinformation, you know, I thank channels for it. A few days ago, I had the privilege too of explaining this, you know, using another media. I'm here today, you know, to say the same thing again, you know, using this platform. First and foremost, I want to say that all the claims by
the 6. He says there were 6 contracts.
Yes. In fact, I want to even say that Akpabio's records are not even correct. The contracts I've attracted to my constituency are in excess of 11. So, I mean, for Akpabio to come about 6, it tells you that that house really, you know, is not organized. But
is there some truth in that letter? If it's 11 and not 6, what does that mean?
There is no truth. Now, I'm the one telling you. You said 6. I'm telling you 11. Oh. Okay, because he doesn't know what is going on. It's unfortunate that Akpabio was with us in the Senate, who was a member of the Niger Delta Committee, just like myself. Will come and say that we are beneficiaries, or me, let me talk about myself. I'm a beneficiary of the contracts in NDDC since 2015 that I got to the Senate. It's unfortunate, but let me put the record straight. The 6 contracts that Akpabio mentioned, 4 of them are street light projects in Oredo, Ikpobaoka, Ego, and Orium. 4 of them. The projects are ongoing. Those contracts were awarded through competitive bidding in 2018. Until today, those jobs have not been completed. The contractors that they chose to do those jobs to date have not been mobilized with 1 naira, and those jobs have not been completed. So for Akpabio to say I've been a beneficiary is unfortunate, it's a wicked lie, and then of course I just believe whatever mischief he wanted to perpetrate, you know, I think Nigerians, you know, through my own explanation should be able to read between the lines. Other 2 road projects that were given, those road projects are Noyagase Street, and then, of course, Omoragmo, one other street, you know, and Adjoining Street. Those road projects, they have been done. Till today, the contractor they awarded those contracts to, they have not been paid. They chose those contractors themselves. And, of course, I was not connected with it. Other projects that were given, I live on Etete Street. Etete Street was awarded in 2016. Till today, the contractor was not mobilized. The contractor did not go to the site. Idusogate Street was given, and till today, the contractor did not go to site. Akpabo Neka Street around the Ugbo area was given, but they were not mobilized. They did not go to site. This is the background. Now, what Akpabio has said is that those 6 contracts that were given, I have benefited from them. And I'm saying never. The contractors that were brought, I don't know them. Number 2, those contracts have not been paid for. So why did I benefit from it? It's just a wicked lie. Maybe my other colleagues too have the same position. I have not, and Akpabio was with us in the Senate. Since this 9th assembly, nobody has gotten anything. How many did Akpabio get in 2018? Because he was a complainant like me.
Well, are you suggesting he equally benefited or got some as well?
Let him say so.
No, you said he was there with you. Do you think he benefited?
He too complained that jobs were not paid for in our constituencies, even though we attract this project. Of course, NDDC is an interventionist agency. I am from the Niger Delta State, Edo State.
Senator,
Like,
just one moment. Can you clear something? These projects that you mentioned, are they supposed to be constituency projects or NDDC projects in your constituency?
They are NDDC projects in my constituency. Okay, the way it works is this. All of us who are from the 9 states, of course, because, I'm from the senatorial district that bears oil and gas in Edo State. I've been a member of that committee since 2015. When they come to our state, naturally, they have what they call their regional projects. Those regional projects come, from them, across the 9 states. But we that are from the states, having our own commissioners who are NDDC commissioners or nominees or whatever they call members from our states, when they come with their project, with their budget, they want input from us. Oh, I will say where I live. In fact, on this street, where you are now, they call it Lucky Way. It's about 1 kilometer. I put all the lights on this street. NDDC, their job that is doing is still ongoing, but they have finished this street. It's about 1 kilometer. I was the one that put it there because this local government area where you are situated is a Pobaka local government area. So I have 3 areas where I put these lights, okay, because of the yearning of the people. That is part of the representation we'll talk about.
When you say Senator, was it your company that put it there?
No, that's the mischief. How did they choose the companies? They are awarded those things. If you go back and find out that I chose these companies, then of course the complicity is talking about. How did you choose the companies? But
you just said you used the article I. You said I put these lights there on the street. So that assumption,
I put it in the budget. I suggested the projects.
Okay. Another thing that a number of people may say is regarding that one is, you don't have to. No one expects that your name is going to be in any of those companies or any senator's name is going to be on any of those companies. Some would assume that you could easily use proxies.
Look, with that assumption, it now becomes a legal issue. If I'm telling you, I did not use proxies. These contracts were bidded for, they were advertised, and people bidded for them. If NDDC that gave out these contracts, Akpabio wasn't even there, can they put their hand on paper to say, I lobbied, I brought proxies to do these jobs? It's not the first time. And that is the crux of the matter. Or that the money that was spent, I brought companies or proxies that did not do the job and I stole the money. That is one of the implications.
Just give us a minute, Senator. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Please stay with us. Well, Senator, could you go ahead and tell us, when you say all of this are not true, does that then mean that if they check the records, they will not find your name or any company associated with you executing any of these contracts?
Now, thank you, Chamberlain. Let me quickly just tell you. The contract that was awarded to NDDC was given to Dijanti Nigeria Limited. The one for Neka Akbaba was given to Simaco Construction Company. The Dusoge Eweka was given to AC Egbe Construction Company. All these companies, before they predate the time I entered the Senate in 2015, working with NDDC.
Able to put it there.
Return Limited has been working with NDDC before I became a senator.
So how then did you say that you put the contracts there?
I put the project. When you put the project in their budget, they usually come and ask, what in your state, Edo State?
So Senator, if that were the case, if no such benefits that you like I want to believe, why then do members lobby to be in those committees and call them juicy committees?
Listen, Chamberlain, the reason why I came to the Senate is to be able to elicit development in my constituency, in Edo South Central District. There is nothing to date to show that NDDC has done anything in my constituency. I don't want to talk about my predecessors in office, but since I came, I've been trying frantically to elicit development in my constituency. Now, the reason why I'm there is certainly not for pecuniary reasons, what comes to my pocket as money, but the projects I bring. And of course, this one is verifiable. Okay? Why I'm angry is that judging from even 9 billion that was allocated to my state NDDC budget in 2018, how many contracts came? How many projects came to Edo South? They had budget performance of 2017 of 5.3%. I did not get anything. Is it this miserable street light that is supposed to be the share of my constituency? So if I struggle to make sure that they are project,
you call them miserable? Did you put miserable streetlights in those areas then?
No, what I'm saying in terms of the amount of money spent. Oh. We have a claim to our common patrimony in this country. And this cannot be spending.
Are you going to sue to clear your name?
And it's only 100 million.
Just one more thing, Senator. Are you going to sue to clear your name?
Well, I expect Akpabio is a man of contradiction. I expect in the next few days he's going to retract this. One, like I said, the reason why
have you written him for that?
I have not, because this news broke about 2 days ago.
Will you write
it? Does not retract it. Legal option will be contemplated by me. If it does not in the next few days retract it, I contemplate legal action. It's my friend.
All right, Senator.
And he knows that he needs to clear this.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Senator.
Terrible people in the Senate.
All right. Thank you, Senator Matthew Urede, for speaking to us this moment.
Thank you very much.
We have one or two comments, don't we?
Well, very, very quickly, this one is from Anthony in Awka in Anambra State. Says he recently started experiencing a hike in his electricity bill from EEDC.
Oh.
And it says, according to NERC directive, EEDC customers without meters who are on estimated bill are charged based on a particular table. It says it's a residential customer R2T. Based on the tariff table, he is meant to be charged 185 kilowatts at 34 naira 28 kobo per kilowatt. But prior to that, things don't seem to be the same. So he doesn't know if the proposed electricity tariff hike had taken off. He's looking for some assistance in that regard.
Okay, we're going to have to check that and bring that back tomorrow as well. So that everyone, just go check your meter. Keep an eye on these things. You never know. Well, that is the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day and please do keep safe.
And I'm Malkwa Ogunye, so thank you for your wonderful engagement online.